and welcome you all to the last day of this exciting conference. We all had really a wonderful time and lot of brainstorming, and I'm sure that today also will be no exception. So we are starting now the session, which is basically social and networking session on today, and today's session will be held in Anne Nelson Hall. Anne Nelson was a renowned theoretical physicist who specialized in elementary particle physics and had been at the University of Washington since 1994. She was a member of National Academy of Sciences and the American Academy of Arts and Science, was a recipient of the J.J. Sakurai Prize for Theoretical Particle Physics. She was also a passionate advocate for inclusion and diversity in physics, and she has penned article about it in Physics Today. So today, this conference and this session is an opportune moment to remember her, whom we lost rather early. Now, moving on to today's session, though last in networking session, we had a lot of interesting discussion. And today I'll now invite Madhurima to share give a summary of one of the satellite workshops and the discussion which we had about the equity in the digital media or the teaching through the digital channel. Over to you, Madhurima.
Thank you, Vandana. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you from wherever you're listening. I am Madhurima, and we had the satellite workshop called Teaching Physics Online, Issues Regarding Access and Equity in the Classroom. This essentially started off because the pandemic started for me with Professor Ram Ramaswamy, the co-coordinator for this entire event, having to cancel his trip to my university to deliver a distinguished lecture. So this had us talking, discussing, and sharing some of our experiences and frustrations regarding online teaching. And we started what we call the discussion forum for online teaching so that we could collectively learn from each other's experiences. One thing that came out very strongly in those discussions, which ran for almost a year to year and a half, and we had panel discussions and many other things, was that there was a gender angle to online teaching, that girls were suffering more than the boys, especially when there were economic inequalities. So this is what led us to propose this particular satellite workshop, and one in-person workshop conducted in Hyderabad last Saturday on the 8th of July, both on very similar topics. So the panel for the satellite workshop consisted of an international panel of speakers, because we wanted to see if our experiences were local or if they had a truly global angle to it. So the program had, of course, Professor Ram and me coordinating the entire event, with Veni Molina from Indonesia, Ana Amador from Argentina, Muriel Bote-Cumella from Spain, Mamanse Diale from South Africa, sharing their practices, experiences, and difficulties, which was followed by a panel discussion with Professor Rosario Reserva from the Philippines and Paula from Portugal. And the final part of the event was a conversation between Professor Ram and Marcia Barbosa, who is the Secretary of Strategic Policies and Programs of the Ministry of Science and Technology in Brazil. Hence, a person who's now with the ministry and in a position of some decision-making power for the entire country. So to briefly summarize what we discussed, we all of us found that online teaching was fairly familiar to a large section of the academicians in one form or the other, whether it was the Coursera or the MIT courses, or in India, the NBTEL and SWAYAM. However, the preparedness to move online was very varied. It varied between overnight to about 5 to 6 months across the globe. Online teaching and remote teaching are not the same. Asynchronous modes of teaching, where the teacher is not present along with the student while the student is accessing online material, does not allow real-time mentoring, which is crucial for the learning process. And this was felt very strongly by all teachers. We also found that it is important to consider the socioeconomic status of a country before judging whether or not online teaching is efficient. One can't make a generalized statement about it. Some countries have very bad internet connectivity, sometimes as low as 50 Mbps. And also, it's not just within across different countries, even within a given country, depending on which geographical region you are in, the internet connections could be very different. On the other hand, online teaching has its advantages, especially for those from underprivileged sections, because it reduces costs of travel, of stay at, the hostel, etc. For all students, if one actually evolves a pedagogy for it, it is a useful tool. For example, it's found that students accessing online material and then coming to attend classes or laboratories were faring better. And the faculty should also be there while they are learning so that they can be mentored. So online ed teaching has its good advantage in preparing a student for classes. It could also be in terms of remedial classes or bridge courses. And one found that materials prepared for online teaching during the pandemic can be reused for such bridge courses and also for outreach programs to schools and other places. However, allowing students to access these materials without mandatory physical classes is shown to have very poor results because the students feel they can learn and somehow they seem to be dropping out of the courses instead of completing it. Online teaching can be used effectively with multi-institutional, multinational teaching collaborations. This was demonstrated in the European Union. And these courses could have material, online material, which is multi-institutional, while if necessary, the assessment and evaluation can be done locally. Some of the best practices we saw evolve from experiences across the globe are, this was a very interesting one called a library of small things, or what we ended up calling it the library of small things. In place of libraries where students borrow books, here students could go and borrow e-bibliographical material and laptops, pen drives, e-readers, and such, either for a few hours or for a few days, depending on the necessity and the material that they were borrowing, which seemed to facilitate e-learning. And this, all of us felt, should be replicated everywhere, because the purpose of libraries has changed over the years. Many of us, including teachers, don't necessarily go to libraries to access physical books, but something like this would be very, very beneficial, especially for those who don't have access to digital material and digital technologies. The other best practice was, of course, the multi-institutional collaborations. Students can benefit from expertise available in other institutes, even if the expert is in some other country or even across oceans. Flipped class modes with a finite component of in-person hand-holding are found to be very effective. We give the material to the students, ask them to prepare, guide them through the preparation, and then they come to the classroom or even to the laboratory. This seems to work in both cases, where they can interact in person or have a very tactile experiential learning in the laboratory. This seems to be very, very effective and something that we have to consider. In almost all cases, online education is effective when the student is prepared to be an independent learner. So this is the underlying point. The student has to be guided to become an independent learner if online education has to be effective. All of us felt that online teaching saw good grades, but not good learning. And this is because many teachers have taught online courses in the old way that they had learned to teach. Faculty necessarily need to be convinced to change their teaching methodology, and training and maybe even if necessary monetary benefits should be provided to facilitate teachers to undergo this training, because they need to really train themselves for this online teaching, which seems to be inescapable for now. Coming to the gender concerns in online education, The first concern and the repeated concern that we have seen is the access to devices and internet is a global concern. Access of devices and internet to women, to the gender minority is a global concern. Whenever resources are insufficient, women are the first to suffer. If in a house there is only one digital device and a male child and a female child both needing it for their education, usually the male child is preferred. However, the time flexibility of being online can be an advantage if there are multiple demands to the learner's time, such as earning a livelihood, childcare, housework, etc. And when there are other issues to contend with, race, economy, disabilities, etc. Time flexibility of being online is a huge advantage for people who go to work, have to necessarily study at night, or if you have certain both physical and mental health issues which do not allow you to be in physical classrooms with the same comfort as being at home in front of a system. So yeah, online education does have its pros and cons in that sense. Online education is seen to be a safe option for many girls across the globe, since they do not have to step out into the real society. However, they're usually warned not to reveal their identity even in the digital spaces by having their profile pictures to be of a flower or a cute little animal or something, and they're prohibited from posting their pictures, their videos, so on and so forth, thus forcing them further back behind what Ram has coined the term as the digital parda, which I think all of us will agree with. This digital parda is something that further facilitates the shy from having to speak or interact with their peers, because they don't have to speak, their screens are not on, they don't have to interact with anybody, so they have no incentive to speak. Thus, while they may gain domain knowledge, personality development, which is a crucial part of any academic program, is completely lost, and we might be pushing the girls further back into seclusion because of this digital parda. I should say that the same space has been useful for some students who are shy, who feel that with the camera off, they're able to interact more, but that's a small section, and that's not what we're discussing here. So quickly, these were our panel members. The second picture is because the first one, Benny, was not very visible. And we teachers have to evolve our pedagogy and our learning and learn to navigate the online spaces. So one example of this is image that I had generated today morning of by using a stable diffusion artificial intelligence of a cat frustrated with online teaching. It's grumpy, I understand. And I think that summarizes our experiences there. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhurima, for nicely summarizing with this workshop and the impact of the online teaching, and particularly in the space of from the perspective of gender equity. Now we will open the discussion, but since your co-organizer and Mr. Ram is present here, we'll first invite him for some additional comments, and then we'll open it for discussion. So over to you, Ram.
Thank you very much, Vandana and Shubhrati. And thank you for summarizing our efforts in this regard, Madhu. Just a few words, because you've sort of given the basic motivation. The gender angle is important for one more reason, which Madhu did not explicitly state. You can have a woman professor, you can have a woman director only if you have women professors or women of achievement. You can have women professors if you have women PhD students, and you can have women PhD students only when they've gone through the entire system. So what we found is that the online, the extreme reliance on online education that is being pushed by many educational systems, both here and the West and everywhere, is this should concern all of us. Will the numbers of women coming into higher education decrease because of going online, or can it be made to increase? Hence, so while we did start out by just having to cope with the situation because of the pandemic, now we have this additional problem that if this is going to be the preferred mode of education, how do we ensure that women come into research later on?
Just give me a second, I'm muting people. Somebody is unmuted.
Yeah. Anyway, that was the only additional point that I would like to add to what Madhu has already summarized. What we were surprised by, and the degree of surprise doesn't come through so much in Madhu's sort of summary of the whole event, is that how similar our problems were to so many different countries in different ways. There was agreement on one set of things with our colleague from South Africa. There was agreement on another set of things with our colleagues from Indonesia. So the experience that we have in general is, I think, a shared experience. And that the fact that it is shared may, perhaps suggest that we could also share our solutions for all this in time to come. So that's just the few additional comments that I'd like to make now.
Thank you so much, Ram, and thank you that you could join us and share these thoughts. So now we can have discussion. I request only people who are going to talk to unmute their mic and talk, and keep it muted otherwise, because otherwise we have some crosstalk. So please raise your hand so that we can have comments and discussion. If you are unable to say, you can also type comments in the chat box. I already see something in chat. Let me see. Just for something else, yeah. Lilia, would you like to say something?
Yes, I would like to emphasize that thanks to the pandemic, somehow to say it, we have learned very much about online teaching, and we have also developed, as it was explained by Madhu Vigyan, that still there is a lot of things to do, because not all the tools can be used in each country. We have to adapt. I remember I made when I was teaching, I made a survey with my students. They were in the first semester of the engineering career, and I asked them to tell me which device they were using. Half of them were using a cell phone. And that was really a challenge, you see, to explain, because of the small size of the device, to write all the equations and all the plots and things like that in this math class. So that is something very important we have to take into account when teaching online. There is another issue that was addressed, that we all, if we want to work following this method, we have to get really well trained, because many of us was just did whatever we could do, not well trained, just trying to figure out how to teach using these devices. So I'm glad, and I want to congratulate this team task, and I hope they can continue doing this kind of efforts and can extend all this learning to the rest of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilia. I see a hand raised by Usha. Usha, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madhurima and Ram, for having this wonderful kind of collective effort. So I wanted always to kind of raise this on collaborative efforts also with some younger students, PhD or postdoc, with some eminent personalities. That is, if it is possible to officiate online collaborative effort, what is your comment on that? Say, for example, a short term, but if we start such a thing for young women in higher education, so that would be another. Teaching is one aspect, and also some kind of research efforts online with officiating collaborative kind of interactions, one-to-one or say a little group. What is your opinion on that? That is my question.
So Madhurima or Ram, one of you would like to answer. Please go ahead. Madhurima, you're muted.
Thanks for unmuting me. I think I couldn't do that.
You're also
Same thing.
muted. You're also
Somebody has to unmute him because we can't unmute ourselves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the problem. So Ram, can I take the first part of it? Yeah. So the first one, thanks, Lilia. And this is, we did have a long discussion about teaching mathematical physics online very specifically, because this seems to be a problem. And there are varied opinions about it, like everything else. And I'll share 2 points of view. One is that online teaching is not effective for mathematical methods or wherever long derivations are required, because students learn from the mistakes that teachers commit on the blackboard. And that is a part of the training. On the other hand, we have had our panelists tell us that they found online to be much better for mathematical physics, especially when the students are untrained. The gap between school education and the university education or undergrad and postgrad is very large, because they are forced to work out every step on the PowerPoint or the presentation or online lecture, and hence cannot go very fast and skip some steps. So both points of view exist as far as mathematical methods or something which is theoretical is concerned. Ram, would you like to add to it? Somebody needs to unmute. Yeah.
Okay, no, I'm unmuted now. Right. So, hi, Usha. It's you see, the medium. We were not so much worrying about collaborative research, although it's obviously something which can be a great advantage. In fact, this entire meeting is an example of a sort of a global collaborative effort that has only come together because we are able to interact online. But the other part, the fact that we are not able to really, fully communicate with each other, like Lilia said, we are all now 1-inch human beings, right? So this is a digital Lilliput. All of us are really small creatures wandering around on a screen. We are not, no, because I mean, there is something to it, right? Because you think of you have a certain image of people thinking, etc., etc. So something where the hybrid, where there's a possibility of also interacting in person is crucial for this great enterprise of ours, which we call research. I mean, I personally think that it can help, but it cannot substitute. And that seems to be the message for teaching as well, that it can certainly help, but in the absence of a certain amount of interaction, it's not as effective as one, I mean, at least today's format is not very effective. But that could just be because I'm old-fashioned.
Yeah, thank you, Ram. Anyone else? I'm trying to see the hands. If I miss it, maybe. Yeah. It will be nice to see how other countries also felt it and faced the Probably. Yeah, Lorena, please.
Thank you. I was hoping to get unmuted. I was writing some things, but I want to share something else, that in the case of physics, what we found in Mexico is that for experimental parts of learning or teaching, it was kind of difficult to guide the students, because one of the additional ingredients in teaching experiments has to do with collective activities, with collaboration, and it seemed that sometimes the gender gap was already there, because it was the same if we had students, men students or female students, that were doing small experiments at home. They didn't get the same support of their families, maybe. And so and even if we wanted to guide them, both cases the same, it was kind of difficult. So I think that's another gap that came in between, at least in our experiences. Thank you.
No, this is so typical of what happened over here as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one additional thing is, I think from robotics teams that compete for robotics, it's known that when there is a whole female team, women's team, they seem to be winning the competitions. If there's a mixed team, somehow the women in the team are relegated to the bookkeeping part of it. They're asked to take data, they're asked to do something in the background, but the hands-on is taken over by the boys. It's both like, it happens very organically and sometimes it's forced upon. So what you have mentioned is a very, very important point, that when we are back in the labs, even in the physical face-to-face mode, I think we need to pay attention to these groups and see how much we need to mentor them to come out, the girls to come out and actually participate hands-on in the experiments, and not just be sitting on the sidelines and jotting down the data.
In fact, this was something which was part of the second workshop, where we discussed the combating biases with contextual examples. So one of the things which we had was that there's an experiment done by a guy and a girl, and a guy is making measurement, and the girl is entering data on the Excel sheet. And then we discussed how that bias means. This also brings in some thoughts about yesterday. I think in the earlier session we discussed about it, is the biases related to the Harvard astronomers, women who did a fantastic work in documentation of the data. But there is also, this is something also comes from what the level of confidence also the girls face differently depending on their upbringing. And maybe, I don't know if this was related, but other aspect which we debated in other satellite event was the confidence level and the guesswork of the woman in the multiple choice questions. So that all has apparently some region dependence. Different regions show different women. So in case somebody wants to comment on that part, and if there are any studies in your countries which highlight that, we will be happy to know about it. I think we can also bring that in. Yeah. Just a side comment that I wanted to. Yeah. So let's see, anybody else has any question? Yeah, please go ahead. 1 minute. Let me ask you. Yeah. You should be able to unmute now. Yeah.
Hi. Sorry, I turned on my video. Can you see me? So
Yes.
I just want to mention a couple of things regarding online teaching, and mainly I fully agree with Lorena that of course for experiments, nothing substitutes the one-to-one and the hands-on experiment and experience and knowledge acquired by doing oneself the experiment in a lab and collaborating and seeing how somebody else does it. So this experience is always very useful to do it in real. But I'm in the case of theory, or mathematics or theoretical physics, I have found that actually online teaching, developing with the new tools that we have, developing these aspects of having the possibility of writing down instead of in a blackboard in a tablet. So that is nowadays very useful nowadays, tools that allow us to do online teaching for theory aspects. And then I have found that very helpful in the sense that it also, the response of girls or female physicists or taking female participants in the online teaching, it's higher. The interaction is larger than in the case of a presence. So somehow this hindrance that I don't want to ask a question right now, I will wait better that the class finish, is not there any longer. So then I have seen that as a positive aspect or development. That one takes the advantage of this, that okay, so then nobody is seeing me, I ask the question, so I dare to ask questions. So then that it's kind of a positive aspect of online teaching. Of course, online teaching should not be only the online teachers. I fully agree that a hybrid situation is always much better, but yes, saying that the online teaching is not, it has its positive aspect. That's what I wanted to say. And nowadays we need to find a ways to attract, and as it was mentioned before, we need to learn to do it in such a way that we keep the attention of the participants. And that is something that we can work and should work on that, and that's something that I have over these days learned and hear and fully agree on that we can within this workshop have an established collaboration, reach more people for online teaching. We can open ourselves and share our experiences and our way to do things, and end up with a much better way to online teaching, making as a tool to aid activities, extracurricular activities, or to aid the normal presence teaching. So that was my comment.
Thank you. There is another hand raised by Bianca. Please go ahead.
Yeah. What I want to say is that in Africa or in places where you do not have enough faculty, online teaching becomes very, very important. The speaker talked about sharing facilities from other organizations and institutions. So if you have a faculty maybe located in India or anywhere in the world, that person can teach students in Africa or anywhere, you know, and the cost of teaching, everything is cheaper than to bring the person to do a face-to-face teaching. So I also agree that the hybrid mode is actually the best. 50% online, 50% face-to-face. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very important point. And yeah, I think we all agree with that. Another thing which I personally felt, and I think Madhurima touched upon it a bit, is most of the students actually use the mobiles. They don't even have the full laptop screen. So when we are working out something, graphs, or even, you know, little longish equations, it becomes very difficult for them to follow it all through. So that's something which is again a matter of concern, because it also will be very hard on their eyesight, and it will have some effect which comes in.
Can I just?
Yeah, sure.
I will request Ram to comment about the digital Lilliput and the geography intersection. But just going back to what Ms. Zacharias was mentioning, see, one aspect that we tend to overlook is the learning disability and the IQ intersectionality that we see. Many high performing students actually have some very significant learning disabilities. And we need to really understand that for them, like for example, just take a person with ADHD, just attention deficiency, which many of us do have. We have to compulsively doodle on the side. An online medium where you can post your question immediately and not wait till the end is a huge advantage. And maybe even in a face-to-face classroom, these are lessons we can take back, where we have a process by which students can note their questions, which we can address at the end or whatever. But these are lessons that are well learned from the online experience. And there are long conversations we can have about this, but just in summary, online is very useful for a certain set of people, and we need to acknowledge this as soon as we can. Ram, would you like to comment on the other two?
I mean, not really. I mean, see, I think that we are pretty much on the same page as far as all these issues are concerned. The size issue is something that all of us have felt with all our students, you know, male teachers, male students, female students. I mean, this is a major issue all over the, you know, all, you know, across genres, across subjects. And any subject where there is, where experience is something that we need to transmit to our students. We are in we are going to be handicapped. Sorry to use that word over here, but that all forms of communication have got to be used, and this can be very effective because you've got your records. You can ask your question anytime. All sorts of that one can make it work if one tries.
No, I was also wondering if you would want to touch upon the multi-university teaching module methodology, because that come out quite significantly even during the workshop.
Yeah, no, certainly. See, one of the things that Paula Villarino said was that in the European Union, or rather in Portugal particularly, a whole group of universities had got together to, to distribute their responsibilities as far as teaching was concerned. So many universities can, if they come together, develop a group of courses which all the students can take, but you can have local augmentation and local examination. So for example, some of us already do it, when our students are doing a course on Coursera, I have found myself sitting with them when possible and listening to the lectures and, coming in and explaining little bits and pieces, pausing the lecture and doing that. So making a common set of resources, but then doing a local augmentation of the lecture, plus, perhaps just do a local exam. Don't wait for an exam to come from some other source. Based on the lectures that you've learned or you've sort of mentored your students to take locally, you can also create examinations based on that. I mean, some of these things have got to be implemented, and if people will try it out, maybe we can discover the advantages or disadvantages of such things.
Okay.
I mean, I'm actually open to participation on such on such an effort if there's any interest.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ram. There is a hand raised by Shahida Parveen. Shahida, please go ahead. Shahida? Shahida, you can go ahead. You are unmuted. Okay, maybe we'll come back. If anybody else has anything to ask while we wait for Shahida to connect. Yeah, Lorena, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I think that when you talked about intersectionality, I think that another aspect to address is that if the students don't have the same they don't have the same conditions. I mean, for instance, in Mexico, out of the 32 states that we have in the country, not all states have physics. So sometimes the students go to another city and learn and have access to opportunities. But during the pandemics or online situation, they couldn't, the only thing that they had was their mobile, and maybe they didn't have good reception. So sometimes even when there are online courses or things that they can use to learn, not everyone could do it because of their conditions, of social conditions, economic conditions. And this disparity also included, was included a gender gap because, for instance, our female students, when they were at home, even if they were in their lectures, sometimes they would be asked to take some additional responsibilities of taking care at home, and the male students could be attending the lecture without any other problem. So these aspects were also something that arose in Mexico. I'm not sure if I suppose that in other countries also. Okay, thank you.
Lorena, which part of India are you talking about?
No, I'm talking Mexico. I'm from Mexico.
No, I know that. This is a joke. What I mean is that you could be talking about India. You could be talking about, I think, many countries, Nigeria, maybe even.
Yes.
So there are a couple of comments. I will read them out because I think they are not able to talk. So Atri says the problem we face is connectivity, not only in terms of network strength, but also of devices. Sitting with mobile phone possibly is not sufficient to attend the class sufficiently when it requires calculation. Provision for hybrid mode is therefore best, but certain aspects are to be done offline only. I think this aspect got discussed. So, I mean, very true, of course. And Shahida has said in online teaching, when we give the quiz, 6 times due to poor net connectivity, teacher did not find their quiz, I guess could not complete. But the advantage of taking online quiz, students know the grade at the same time. So that's the feedback to the students. Yeah. So that's both.
No,
yes.
can I?
Yeah, please.
Quickly coming in. I think I just didn't mention it in the summary, but all of us across the globe felt that the students absolutely took advantage of being online, and we have all suffered. I think they have come up with novel ways to cheat the system in whatever fashion, and that's a completely different conversation. I just didn't want to bring it to this this panel, but yes, that's true, very true.
Yeah, they were very creative, I'm sure.
Very creative.
Yeah. Deepa?
Oh, yeah, thank you for accommodating this question. So, Madhurima and Ram, I just wanted you to comment a little bit about, see, we talked for several years a transition into how students can be felt more agentic and what pedagogy can offer in a physical classroom setting to empower them in terms of physics or science learning. And then suddenly this shift of online also adds a challenge in terms of like pedagogically, how do we prepare ourselves as a teacher to give the same kind of experience? So when this platform was developed, and you must have had several teachers talking about their experiences in terms of technology, could you comment some what you heard from them in terms of like pedagogic challenges that they faced, and how they adapted certain ideas about it in the switch?
Madhu, since I have to go, in a short.
Yeah, sure.
Let me just give some reaction to Deepa's question. Okay, so Marcia Barbosa, for example, she was very forceful about the following. that what we've done by and large, the sudden transition has made us into remote teachers rather than online teachers. Basically, we are doing the same techniques that we were doing in our physical classrooms. We are taking a video of it, more or less. And this is true about most of NPTEL and all that. What exactly online teaching should be is something that I think we don't quite fully agree upon, and we don't quite, we don't know all aspects of it, because maybe certain type of teaching is good enough for one subject, but almost everybody agreed that experiments is one very big area where online is very difficult. And although there are some things that you can do online which you can't do in the physical experiment, you can do real close-ups. You can use very powerful cameras to do to show students what is going on, but it comes at a price. It comes at the price that you don't get them to touch and do these things. So I think that we are sort of we have to explore, and what is clearly coming out is that not one of us is not going to be able to sit out and get a solution. We have to try them out. We have to try them in the classroom. We have to try them with colleagues, similar-minded colleagues. This is going to require, and I think that it also has to be cross-cultural. Within a country, with outside countries, all of this is going to be important. So I hope that, and this was a kind of message that went out in our workshop, that, let's get together and try to actually do it, but then let's evolve something on this, okay? Yeah. So these comments, I need to take your leave now. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ram, for joining us, and we'll see you again in the next sessions. Yeah.
And if I can just quickly add to that, Deepa, yes. Speaking of this pedagogy, I think as teachers, we need to understand that pedagogy, which is for children, is not going to be applicable to university level students, and somehow the teaching style remains the same. So online teaching, like all of us are really aware, is only meant for a self-learner, pedagogy. How many of the teachers are aware of the teaching style itself is a big question mark to start with. And what we realized through the conversations is that having a flip mode, or giving the online material to the students, allowing them to prepare and then come to the class where it becomes interactive, prepares both the teacher and the student for such a self-learning. And in that sense, we need to put in much more effort. Online teaching is going to take much more time, both for the teacher and the student. So unlike what many decision-making bodies seem to believe, that online teaching means lesser time, we need to lower the number of courses that they learn, spend more time, and actually allow them to be adult learners, or not just adult learners, but be self-learners.
Yeah, thank you. If there are quick questions, one or two quick questions, we still have time. Maybe for one, because we are close to 10:50. Yeah, we are halfway through the session. Okay, I don't see any hands, so I take this opportunity to thank. Oh, okay, Lorena, yes, please go ahead.
Sorry, I wrote something in the chat, because we found that also the students lost some confidence for doing their on-site test, something like stage frightening. I mean, yeah. When they were in the classroom, and maybe not only because of their creative solutions when they were doing tests online, but because of their confidence. I think that was, I did find that in several of our colleagues that reported.
And they seem to have lost their patience to sit for a 3-hour examination, or the attention span has come down considerably.
Yeah, so quick comment by Nagozi, and then Zacharias. Yeah.
Good morning, all. I noticed when I was teaching online teaching that the attendance of the students were low. you won't know when they come. Today they will come, next day they will not come. And there is a poor internet connectivity. So if you see them one-on-one, you can be able to be encouraging them. But online teaching, the attendance is not there. And apart from that, you also have that their families will be making noise, interference from the families. Some will be talking. So online teaching is good because of cost effective, but when you check every other thing, it's not all that good. Face-to-face teaching is always good. So I also support the motion of hybrid teaching, online 50 and physical 50. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And very important point. Yeah. Last words. The careers, please go ahead.
Yeah. So what I see now currently is that we have several challenges. So from one side, we as teachers, we need to evolve in our way of teaching if we want to teach online. And I fully agree on that, because it's not the same way. We need to learn how to keep the attention of the students and how to motivate them to participate. On the other hand, I don't fully agree that it's not possible or that there is no interaction, because as I say, one does not necessarily, nowadays, one does not necessarily need to prepare PowerPoint or PDF previously taught. So one can really use tools like a tablet, like a tab, like the whiteboards that were one with a electronic pen, one writes there automatically, like if one was in person writing in a board. So I have seen that. I took part in a many-body class, and actually it was very useful and very efficient, because some people were in Israel, some people were in US, I was here in Germany. So then, and in the conversation and the interaction was very vivid. So in that sense, and the whole class was written like in person in a blackboard, in this case, in a white tablet board. And it was very efficient. But as I say, and it has been already said several times, when it's to develop this teaching keys new ways of doing it. And regarding Iviyenka comment, and it's absolutely true. If one tries to work in a multi-university collaboration, one overcomes this lack of present teachers or professors. And on the other hand, we also need to guarantee that the students have the necessary tools to understand and to follow the class. And it's true that just using the mobile is kind of sometimes difficult to see everything. Then it comes the idea of having some kind of library of resources that allows them to have that, or maybe instead of having it individual, each one with its mobile or with its tablet, have smaller groups where they gather together and they have a single tablet or a single screen where they can follow the class. So maybe it's kind of a hybrid way in more directions than just having presence and online teaching, but also having smaller groups attending an online class, like in remote regions where the class, all the students are together and the teacher is elsewhere. So maybe it's an alternative to find a consensus, whether or not this way, finding a way of collaboration, international collaboration can be helpful with that. Okay. And regarding sorry, just one more thing.
Yeah, can you be a bit quick? We are running a little late, so because
sorry, it's okay. Just we need to come up with a clever idea to keep their attentions and to find out how can we do the tests online in a way that there is this no possibility of teaching well.
Sure.
By
so I think if there are any new points, I request everybody to put in the chat box, because there are some other comments coming in, and we move on to, because it's almost 11, so we move on to the next part. So I now request Deepa to share the screen and present about the initiatives of HBCSE for Vigyan Pratibha program. She'll explain all it is. Deepa, you have about 10 minutes, so then we can have some discussion.
Sure. Thank you, Vandana. And I will be very brief. Can you see my screen?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, all right. The program that I'm going to talk about is called Vigyan Pratibha. So for my international friends, Vigyan means science and Pratibha is developed genius, not the acquired one. So which is developed through the scholarship of learning. And this program is academically hosted at Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education. I'll give a little bit of detail about what the program is. So the program is funded by Department of Atomic Energy in India. This was launched in 2017, and now we are in the extended phase of it, where along with Homi Bhabha Center, other 11 regional centers from within India, encompassing a range of scientists at 11 national science and technology research laboratories and institutions have become part of this program. The emphasis of this program is on is two ways. One is enhancing the school settings for student nurture, and the other focus is on teacher capacity building. And the program is entirely situated in standard or grade 8 to 10, and it focuses on 3 school systems: Kendriya Vidyalaya, JNV Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya, and Atomic Energy School. For those who are not particularly familiar with these school systems, these are the largest school systems in India, which encompass around 1,700 schools in India, all over geographical regions. And through the program, we intend to cover more than 20,000 students who will receive a direct interaction with the resources that are prepared in this program. But a lot of teachers and students would get a secondary exposure of it, as most of all the material that is developed in this program is available on open source for both national as well as international students. So why this program pays importance, or why this program is important to talk in this platform is, we all for the last 4 days have talked about how enhancing the representation of women in STEM can happen, but we also kind of have seen that the ground familiarity, the reality is, unless we uplift the entire school systems, we will not have enough women who are going to college, who are going to undergraduate and postgraduate levels. And even more importantly, if you consider some statistics which was developed, which was seen very recently and parsed, the standard 10 students in India every year are around 19 million, out of which only 2 million students take undergraduate level in STEM discipline. So for a larger fraction like 17 million, the standard 8 to 10th is the only opportunity where they are formally introduced with maths and science subject. So if we are thinking about inclusivity in science and technology and mathematics overall, we also might have to enhance the experience that the students receive in the school level through our expertise in science and expertise in research. So with this vision, the program thought of covering, so academia and industries are already connected because a lot of academic research venture transfer into some kind of technology in industry. What we felt was also important is to connect academia and industry to the school system so that it creates channels for scientists and teachers to interact. And I'll just present the summary more in form of pictures. So what in the exposure dimension we covered was, for the past 5 years, we have been taking teachers and students to visit several national science laboratories and research institutes to interact with students and form or develop network which can have extended interactions. Teachers also come at these research institutes and lab for some orientation program where they do basic skill building. I mean, it is important to say that we may think that the schools these days have very defined or very like ultra modern technology, but it is in fact also true that a lot of technology that they have in the labs are often shelved, and students as well as teachers do not necessarily have an easy access to practice some of these. Teachers also come here and explore some learning materials which they co-develop or co-evolve along with researcher. So you can see pictures where they have tried out some basic activities which can eventually become a resource for students. And I just presented a glimpse or a spectrum of different units or activities that VP developed over the years. Again, as I mentioned earlier, all of these material is available on open source platform for everyone to have a look through. And these materials, like when are exposed to the teachers go back to their respective schools and try out with their students in a collaborative form. NEP, the National Education Policy of India, enhances or encourages teachers to use interdisciplinarity in the classroom, and all the learning material extend beyond their curricula and involve exploratory projects, which inherently tries to bring interdisciplinarity in the discussion. And the students can try up to 1 or 2 activities per month, which accounts into 100 hours per year, which gives them enough sense of how science and mathematics can be dealt in a different way than what probably they are actually learning in the classroom. I'll present one example how the activity would look like. So we all have seen a we'll all have heard this tale of thirsty crow who manages to quench its thirst by dropping pebbles in water. But essentially, as a scientist, what we try to do is, if I have to simulate the same experiment in lab, how would I do that? And a physics answer to that is essentially I need to quantify the increase of volume of water by adding the marbles. And if I could find a way that whether that will always rise the water level above, will give me the answer for this tale. What we have seen is, even doing this simple experiment, students learn that the tale is more like a fiction, and it is not always possible to bring the water level up because the spacing between, or the pore spaces in between, or the is an example, or leads to change the dynamics of the volume that we are talking about versus the volume that is calculated. Another example is a pinhole camera, which without even using a lens gives a precise picture and gives you a unique property of how light travels in a straight line, which leads to inverted both laterally and vertical image of object. So all of these are very simple experiments, but make students to think more carefully about the science and mathematics concepts that they are learning. I won't go through all, but I just wanted to highlight a few that you might be interested. There are units which also talks about observations. Just for example, birds is another learning unit, and we all know that birds, or observing birds, is an important skill, which is in fact practiced in several disciplines, not just science, or not just probably physics, but also for climate science, agriculture, environment, and food science. So observing these behaviors and reporting them is a scientific skill that the students are expected to learn. But what we see is, when we propose this idea, oftentimes the explorations are more internet based. What we would like to achieve, or what we try to achieve through the activities, is how students can be more observant and can be more reflective about a range of things that they see. I'm sorry, most of these transcripts are also in bilingual version, but you could see the students have made fantastic observation in terms of their behavior, in terms of their location, the sound that they produced, their food habits, and their residential habits. So these are some pictures that we collected in last couple of years, where the students tried out these activities in various schools. These are some alternates that students brought when a learning unit or an activity was proposed, but the materials were not then available then and there. This is a range of spectrum of schools that we have covered so far. So as you could see, Mumbai is far left in the corner. We are primarily focusing on the regions or the states closer to geographically closer to our state, but we plan to expand it all over the India in the extended phase of this project. What I presented was simply a tip of the iceberg, and I just talked about how these activities happened in school and how teachers were exposed to different science and research laboratories nationwide, and also were oriented to try and facilitate these units or activities to school. What I did not cover, but very much present in the website, is a range of learning units or activities that you or you can try, or you can also advise your colleague to take a look and try out in their school settings. What I also did not cover, but all of you might be interested, is to join or to provide your expertise in for revising some of these activities. You can also join us through online teacher discussion sessions, which essentially allows to try out some of these learning units for national as well as international teacher community, which then take it over to their students. And much of these learning units which we have tried in school settings have also been converted in form of some open lectures in Steamboat, another initiative of Homi Bhabha Center. So I would also encourage everyone to take a look at some of these activities and the sessions that were developed through this. So thank you very much for listening. And as we chat, I'll try to drop in some links in the chat box, which will give you access to much of these resource materials. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Deepa, for a very nice and concise presentation. Now we have 15-20 minutes for discussion. So let's open the discussion. Give me a minute to make some settings because the Zoom is playing a lot of tricks on me. Okay, I want to allow people to unmute themselves. Yeah, so people can unmute and ask a question or raise a hand. So maybe while we are waiting for questions, do you want to say a few words about how you are choosing the problems? Okay, Lilia has raised a hand. So Lilia, please go ahead.
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
In the curricula for students, I guess there is some science class, and they have a activity, already have some activities there. So these are additional complementary, try to reinforce, trying to induce students to learn more, develop some skills, things. Is that correct?
Yes, Lilia, absolutely. So the program is more like an after school program, but it tries to connect it tries to form a canonical connection with curricula that they learn both vertically as well as horizontally in standard 8 and 9, because those are the academically important year in the school system, where we observe a lot of dropout of students due to mathematics primarily. So yes, these are like extra activities that they learn apart from the science and science teaching and learning that they do in class.
And university professors are involved somehow?
Yes.
In which way?
Yeah, so as I think Vandana was also asking me to elaborate a bit on how these materials are developed. So we conduct several resource generation camps where we invite researchers as well as university professors and a small group of teachers who talk about what would be interesting for students to learn apart from curricula at that for those age groups, and those discussions help us to come up with topics that eventually are developed as an activity. So optics is a so for instance, pinhole camera was offered for standard 8 student because that is the time where the students start learning about optical properties and slowly are introduced with maybe Huygens principle in standard 9th or 10th. So that is a stage where how with even low cost devices, optical properties can be studied, become interesting for students.
Yeah, Ivanka has a question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. My question is this: how do you choose the students or the schools? Do you go to a region, and how do you choose the schools? And secondly, when do you do the event? Is it after school or during the vacations?
Right. Thank you, Ibianka. So the school systems right now that are connected with Vigyan Pratibha have been part of it, or they have been part of it from the genesis. And they're also chosen because the school system, as I mentioned, have around 1,700 schools in India. So forming those connections with the school system becomes much easier. But having said that, the exposure dimensions where the students are taken to different national research laboratories and for visits. So we try to keep around 75% of these visits, particularly for students who come from communities which are marginalized in terms of gender, in terms of the language, and in terms of sociocultural settings that the majority of school students represent.
Okay, I think Madhurima has a question.
Yeah, hi Deepa, thanks for that. Just a quick pedagogical question which came from our discussions too. One experience shared was that if students are allowed to explore experiments by themselves without necessarily giving them instructions, they seem to be coming up with creative solutions and also finding their way through. And as compared to giving them very systematic instructions, what would your take on that be based on your experience?
Yeah, I absolutely double Madhurima to what you said. In fact, I mean, I have also dropped the link on in chat box. So if all of you could go and take a look at the learning unit, you would see that these learning units are far open-ended, and they are not at all prescriptive, and they just put out an idea. And in fact, like the birds learning unit that I talked about, intrinsically sets up a ground that the students would go ahead and explore or observe the birds and write down their observation throughout a month. And with that data, what kind of conjectures they can build about behaviors, about the food habits, that all come. So it is much more open-ended, and essentially it just tells them about explore the world with things that they already kind of are familiar with, and it is a little bit guided because we don't want the students to necessarily go with the wrong concept in class, but however they are like whatever constructions that they are building, the facilitation is mainly to make sure that a good understanding about the concept overall builds up. But they are absolutely open-ended and make this gives the student quite a good of autonomy to explore that within the learning unit. Yes.
Yeah, Shamima, you wanted to add something? Yeah, Shamima, can you unmute?
Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Mute. Yeah. Thank you for giving me the floor. I think Deepa has a wonderful program, Vigyan Pratibha. Is Homi Baba giving you the funding for this?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Shamina. So the Homi Bhabha is an academic leader in this program. The funding is coming from Department of Atomic Energy of India. And I would say that it is a large or a leading program at the moment that Homi Bhabha Center is running.
I see. So my comment is that it seems that nurturing the year 8 to class 8 to class 10 students is a wonderful program, and making them close to the nature or the science. And also you are training the teachers, right? So do you have any formal like Olympiad? We have Olympiad in Bangladesh. You know, mathematics was very scaring for students. But when they started Olympiad, Math Olympiad, it became so popular, so popular. So people from remote areas, they are winning the trophy, going to international events. So my question is, do you have any formal exam to test the merit of a student?
All right. So, I mean, I would make a comment about it just because I'm also a faculty member at Homi Bhabha Center, and we do have Olympiad, which is an entirely different program and also quite successful. The Vigyan Pratibha focus is not primarily on assessment, but providing opportunities for access to good quality of science and mathematics learning material to a larger spectrum of students community. Olympiad has a different goal in that way, but both of these programs are housed within Homi Bhabha Center. And I forgot to mention, but I also see some comments. Yes, we do have many international collaborators who have joined us in terms of their academic contributions. So they have helped us in revising, reviewing some of these learning units. So I see a lot of comments of people who have expressed interest, and I would definitely love to take your advice and get your expertise to develop some material. So thanks for being kind and supportive and encouraging about it.
So there is Archana Tiwari wants to comment, but before we go to that, I just want to add a small thing on what Deepa said, is that please visit the Homi Bhabha Center webpage. Most of the links to the resources, which are all in public domain, are available there. And if you are interested, I'm sure you correspond with her or Sarna Bhattacharya, who are very much willing to expand the outreach activities. And we would be more than, I mean, I can say this on behalf of both HBCSE Center Director and the TIFR as a whole, that we are really very much open to the collaborations in the field of science education as a whole, and physics in particular. And the second thing I just wanted to add was, there is a minor difference, or rather a thin difference line between Olympiad and the Vigyan Pratibha, which Deepa did, but I would just like to re-emphasize it, that Vigyan Pratibha projects are really aiming at kind of looking at a entire cater to the entire community, because this is the way we want all the schools to think about. We want this to become a part of the main curriculum, so that it will improve or kind of give impetus to the thinking ability of all the students. The mathematics Olympiad becomes very competitive and caters to a very small community as a whole, in like, you know, prestigious engineering colleges and so on in that. Yeah. Okay, Archana, please.
Thank you, Vandana, and thank you. I think it was very motivating. I think motivating for people like where we don't actually go for much of the outreach programs. But I think I do feel like we may be, I think I or some of my students maybe, or maybe I think people in this region, because I can see that you have not explored much of the central India part. Yes. So I would like to be a part of this venture, like I think wheresoever it has been needed. But I do feel like, I think if these things are being resourced well, I think and people are being informed well, because I got to know about this Vigyan Pratibha for the first time. So I feel like, I think if this has been like advertised well, I'm very sure I think people will actually be able to gather much of the information from them. and maybe able to apply them as well. I mean, like the way you have been doing. So yeah, this is what I wanted to comment. So yeah.
Thank you, Arjun. ICER Bhopal has joined very recently as one of our regional centers. So that's our little bit moment in the central region. But yeah, I mean, we are always looking for more coordinators who can expand and take this further in their geographical locality. So thanks.
Yeah, and one more thing I will just add, I think we'll also try to give the resource links for that. Is during the pandemic, I mean, taking advantage of the things during pandemic, the group at Homi Bhabha Center also developed various experiments which could be done using smartphone, even things like sensing acceleration and so on. And there are lectures on the YouTube. And this is something, again, very useful. I think people can do this at home because almost everybody, whatever limited thing has, and gives them a real feeling of experience. So these are also kind of things which are there on the Homi Bhabha. Yeah.
So the last link I shared, Steamboat has most of these lectures archived. I think some of them are also, I'll just put the links as we talk. So do take a look at.
Yeah, we will also probably, I mean, may not be immediately today, but even after the conference closes, since the web page will remain active, we will add some of these things as a resource materials for participants to visit at their convenience. We have about 5 minutes before we can close and get on, so we can take a couple of questions, comments still. Yeah, Lilia wants to say something.
Can I get those links in the email, please?
Yeah, so that's what I just said. We'll probably set it up on the web page and then send you an email saying the links are available at this resource place. Yeah, Lilia, you wanted to say.
Yes, yeah, I was going to mention that this is a very good idea to collect all the resources shared during the conference and put it in the website somehow and at some point.
Yeah, definitely. That is something that can be.
Sure, we'll do that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I don't see any more hands. So I take this opportunity to thank all the people, particularly Madhurima and Ram, to present this thing at a very short time. Okay, Nagozi. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Looks like you have a connection issue.
All the contacts.
Yeah.
All the contacts, all the websites should be emailed to us so that we can collaborate. Like what she just, Dr. just said now. Please, if it's possible, let us get all the emails, all the contacts in the emails. Thanks.
Sure. We will do that. We'll try to disseminate information in all possible ways. It may take a few days, but we will do that, definitely. Thank you so much. So, yeah, so that brings us to the conclusion of the session. So let me thank Madhurima, Ram and Deepa for putting up this today's session together at a short notice. This is actually a result of our dynamical discussions, and it came up very well, just almost with a 24 hours notice. They were able to put this together. So thank you very much.